Hi, my name is Jennifer Elliott. Welcome to my video presentation of my portfolio. Since I don't have a classroom, I decided today we're going to film in my kitchen. Today we're going to make chocolate chip cookies, and as I add each ingredient for the cookies, I'm going to tell you about an ingredient in my portfolio. To save time, I'm going to just touch on one piece from my portfolio rather than go through all the pieces. All right, so our first ingredient today is butter. We're going to start by creaming the butter. Okay, so our butter is mostly creamed. Okay, so for the first competency number 1, we're supposed to assess students and assess their knowledge. For this piece, I did a case study, and I actually used my daughter. At the time, she was 9 or 10 years old in 4th grade. And what I did with her is I took all of her Dibbles measurements. It was a reading assessment. I used that as a piece. I also used this qualitative reading inventory, of which contains word lists, comprehension piece, and from that we assessed. I was able to gather information to figure out how her fluency was, what her weaknesses were, what her strong points were, and then from that I wrote a summary. Okay, ingredient number 2, we're going to add our brown sugar. Blend it on in, cream the sugar and the butter. Just scrape down the sides a little bit. Scrape off our butter. So for competency number 2, I needed to design an instructional plan. So what I did is I included an instructional map from my professional work, from my consulting, where I was hired to create a kindergarten lessons for a kindergarten composition program. And so I include an instructional map which aligns to the Common Core standards. All right, so we're going to add ingredient number 3, which is our white granulated sugar. Okay, so for the third competency, which is in regards to creating a classroom climate conducive for learning, I include my literature review, which the theme or the title of that is How Do Teachers Build Community in Their Classrooms? And in that I include 5 or 6 articles, research articles, that help create strategies and talk about strategies that they use in their classroom for creating community and building community in their classroom. And this is a theme that is recurrent through all of my master's program and actually is the topic of my thesis as well. Okay, so for my 4th ingredient, we're going to add our eggs to our creamed sugar and butter. I'm going to make sure it's blended completely. Scrape the sides. Okay, so for our 4th competency, we needed to apply research to instruction. And one of my goals from the very beginning of my program was to learn more about the research of teaching kids to read, because as part of my program, I'm earning my reading endorsement. So for that, my goal was to read this book called Beginning to Read, Thinking and Learning About Print. I was able to do this in EDU 586. And in that class, I read the book, wrote a summary, shared with other colleagues in my class. And this really is a landmark study and is a foundation of several reading programs. Okay. Ingredient number 6, now we're going to add our baking soda to our flour. So we're going to blend our dry ingredients first. So I always like to blend it in a separate container first before adding it to my batch. And actually, the 6th ingredient would be the vanilla. I forgot the vanilla. the most important part. So we're going to add that first. Blend it on in. Brings nice flavor to our cookies. Okay. So competency 6 is to help establish different goals or environments based on the needs of students. And so for this one, I really address in my final assessment, which is my thesis. The topic of that is how to build community in culturally diverse classrooms. And I address in my thesis how important it is for teachers to have a really good understanding of the subtleties that different cultures might have. For example, some students might be raised to not look teachers in the eye. That's not part of their cultures, to have eye contact with adults. So that's something as a teacher we would really need to be aware of in our classroom. So I really, again, I address that in my thesis. For the next competency, I've added my baking soda to my flour, and this requires us to create a lesson based and aligned with state standards. So for this one, I chose the state standard for kindergarten in the area of phonemic awareness and emphasized that goal by using a book called Jake Baked the Cake, which has a lot of rhyming and alliteration. And so that lesson plan was written directly to the district and state standards to meet that goal. Okay, we are on ingredient number 8, I believe, which is our flour. So in our flour, I've blended the salt and the baking soda, and I'm going to add that to my butter. And I have found that when you first add the flour, it sort of flies all over the kitchen. So one of my tricks is to cover it with a towel so it doesn't fly all over the kitchen and we have a flour storm. And it's mixing well. Okay, so for competency 8A, we're required to use and be current on emerging research. For this, I really learned a lot in educational research about how to research and only use peer-reviewed articles, how to cite properly. I was then hired in my professional work to participate in a white paper whereby I needed to find research that took place in the last 10 years that would support and update this white paper. So I've included that. I'm really proud of that, and it was a great and exciting opportunity to participate in that huge research project. Okay, for competency 8B, let's find our next ingredient, which are our chocolate chips. I'm going to add our chocolate chips. Mix them up. Okay, so 8B, the competency is to participate in improving opportunities for learning, both for teachers and for students. And so for this, I included an actual coaching report that I wrote after and upon visiting a school and working with the teachers during their literacy block. And in doing so, I write their strengths, things they can work on, and that feedback can hopefully be used to improve their teaching and their students' learning. And our last and final ingredient are our walnuts. So I'm going to add those. Okay. And competency 8C is to collaborate with a colleague. There are several opportunities that I had to do that while working on some of the reading programs that I was on the development end, and also in observing colleagues, a colleague in my classroom during EDU 605. But one that I'm really proud of is creating a handout. It was a jigsaw project whereby we worked with one of our online colleagues and created a handout, and this one, the focus is on differentiated instruction. And so for this one, I was really proud. Okay, so our cookies are ready to put on the cookie sheet. And I need 2 spoons. So I'm going to put the cookies on the cookie sheet. Okay, so we have all the ingredients in my portfolio and we have all the ingredients in our cookies, and now we're going to pop them in the oven. The oven is heated to 375, so they'll bake for about 8 to 10 minutes. So while they cook, I'll tell you a little bit about how I've really enjoyed my master's program. I really enjoyed my professors and my instructors, and I really enjoyed our textbooks. There wasn't one textbook that I didn't enjoy or refer to again, either in the writing of my thesis or in my professional work. I shared and referred to it a lot. I also it seemed like whenever I was taking a class, there was always some way that it could apply to my work, which, I mean, that's obvious, but it was really just fun to be learning about something and just it always applied to whatever I was doing at the time. So now I'm going to get a glass of milk and a plate, and my only regret is that you're not going to be here with me to have a warm chocolate chip cookie. Okay, cookies are done. Put them on the cookie rack to cool. Wish you were here to have a warm cookie and a glass of milk. Congratulations on completing your master's program, and thanks for being here today to walk through my portfolio with me and watch me make cookies. This is my cameraman, my son Michael. Cheers.